Now a leader of the country who's tall, dark, and handsome, and he has quite a fan club. Well, if you look over to Europe, you'll find somewhat similar phenomena. You look at Tony Blair, who was, very Bill Clinton-esque. He was young.
But we always say looks are extremely important.
They are.
First impression, and of course, look, they always say clothes make the man.
So you talk about a debonair look, so you've got Nicolas Sarkozy of France, kind of has that persona, and he's also, a bit of a sex symbol overseas, as well as here. But the same doesn't carry true when you go to the Asian countries, right? So the three that were highlighted here is just funny. It was Ban Ki-moon, who's the UN Secretary General, but he's not exactly a sex symbol. He just gives you a nice, solid appearance that he can get the job done. Manmohan Singh was also featured. Of course, he's not a sex symbol, but in India, he's widely regarded as being very wise and fair. So I think, that is what propelled him to become the leader of India. And there's one more example in here of the Australian Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, who, again, not very sexy, but has that very safe, solid, experienced look, which the populations overseas went for. But in the United States, we're a little different.
No, I really think Manmohan Singh looks extremely good.
He does, but I guess if you put him
he's a sexy Sardar right there.
for what is he pushing, 70? Just a funny article.
Now, here is real funny. Men are going to be men, whether they are president of the United States of America or the president of France. Young lady passing by, and both presidents get into their mode. Very funny picture. Folks, Fortune puts out 500 largest companies in the world. And America has always been a leader, still is the leader, but see how the world is changing. China, in 1998, had 6 companies, 1% of the Fortune 500 versus 37% for the United States, with 185 U.S. companies in the Fortune 500, the world's largest companies. This past year, 2008, the U.S. has reduced to 140 companies, 30% of Fortune 500, and China has gone to 7%.
Wow.
With 37 Chinese companies in that range.
Ramesh, I can't say I'm surprised by those statistics. If you think about where China was, and you think about the Olympics and the impression that it made around the world, I think you are going to see China rise on the world stage. And I don't think India is far behind either.
Yeah, look at the Chinese market. It was at 4,000 some points when the recession hit, and they went to 1,100. And right now they're at 3,400, very close to where they were, only 20% below. We were at 14,000, and we had not yet hit even 9,000. So there's a lot of difference. China, everybody still thinks, and Chinese have actually woken up to start being consumers, good consumers, which is what make the business go. So China is doing well from that perspective.
And their products are everywhere. But speaking of where their products are and American companies that are doing well overseas, you've heard this story about India's first Walmart?
Yes.
There was a lot of controversy about Walmart going to India, and people expected there'd be a lot of protests, but it turns out the opening of the first Walmart has actually caused a lot of excitement.
That is very true. But by the way, that's not a Walmart model. That's a Costco model.
It is a little bit of a different model, and I'm glad you raised that point, because that's the point I was going to make here. Is it doesn't operate in the same way that Walmart does here. It is a wholesaler. So you can, as a mom and pop shop, you could conceivably go to Walmart and get items there as your wholesale.
And you have to become a member, which is the Costco model.
It is the Costco model, but again, the supplier, the beginning of this whole merchant cycle starts with Walmart. I think it makes India quite vulnerable in some regards, and I still think that the mom and pop shops, the culture might die out a little bit once you have more of these.
I don't
Walmart
think
show
so.
up.
See, the Indian kitchens are kind of small. You have to buy goods like every day. There's no storage capacity, so they don't buy in bulk. But the joint families, particularly this thing opened up in Punjab, folks. So these joint families with 20 members, they would love to go and buy rice and wheat and other things in bulk. That'd be good for them.
I also think that, India is excited because Walmart offers a different kind of shopping experience. Everything's neatly contained. They've got, it's like a warehouse, but everything's neatly organized. In that sense, I think some good things will rub off on Indian merchants, right?
3% of the retail in India, folks, is organized. But remember, Indian folks get their vegetables right at the door. It's all fresh. And, the upstairs neighbor is going to shout down and say, buy a kilo of onions from me too. That kind of atmosphere of buying, how do you compare with Walmart?
Well, that's true. And I do think that this is, the Indian model is one step better than a farmer's market. It's like a traveling farmer's market. It comes right to your doorstep to deliver everything. I don't think that culture is going to go anywhere fast, but I do think that it's one more example of the homogenization of India over time. We talked about Chili's and all these restaurants going to India now. So the local flavor, the local scene is going to suffer a little bit.
And some of them will complain. Walmart is going to be opening 3 to 5 stores every year for the next 5 years. According to the Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers Association, the rate of divorce in the first 4 months of 2009 has gone down by 40%. People are not going in for a divorce because as it is, it's a pretty bad situation out there. What are you going to do with a divorce? In fact, some of the divorces that are happening, people are actually living together. The wife will live upstairs all on 2 floors and the husband will be down in the basement. Divorce happens, people want to separate their properties. This is not the time to sell. So when you're selling, you're actually taking a loss. So there's no use. In fact, they're saying that people have become decent to each other. Now, you know what? The husband does take out the trash. Kids do understand that mommy lives upstairs, daddy lives downstairs. And there's really no tension because we are divorced.
So let me get this straight. This is really a letter of complaint from the matrimonial lawyers because they're running out of business because no one wants to get divorced anymore.
But that's actually good. Now you understand why in the poor countries and the developing countries there's very little divorce.
Not to mention the divorce is very expensive, especially if it's a contentious divorce. By the time you have the lawyer's fees, court fees, it's a very expensive proposition.
I remember somebody told me divorce is actually for rich people. Other than, of course, if there's an abusive situation, a total compatibility problem.
Wait.
Otherwise,
divorce is a transfer of wealth from 2 people who used to be rich, who after divorce